Technical Assistance on Learning and Development for PRIME-HRM Maturity Level II, we want to thank you, Lord, for all the blessings that you have bestowed on us. We thank you for giving us the opportunity to come together and train on this momentous day. May you bless the participants so that they will be able to gain significant knowledge that they can apply after this technical assistance. May you bless all people behind this activity that they may continue training other people for God and the nation. May you bless everyone and make us all resilient to these challenging times. We ask all this in your mighty name. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. So please bear with me, no? I am alone. I have no assistant in today's virtual assistance considering that there is no internet connection in the office, so there is a problem with the internet. So I hope we will be able to get through this. Okay, so there are 17 participants. As I have mentioned earlier, we will be discussing learning and development. No, this is a continuation of the technical assistance that we had. We already finished the governance pillar, so we will continue with learning and development. No, for PRIME-HRM Maturity Level II. So for the performance objective, participants shall be able to effectively administer a customized L&D policy and guidelines towards continually developing individual competencies and agency capabilities in accordance with the requirements of PRIME-HRM Maturity Level II. So this is the same performance objective, no? To be able to administer a customized L&D policy. Okay, for the learning objective, we have the same learning objectives. So for this session, we will focus on discussing the purpose, principles, processes, and practices in relation to customizing and administering own learning and development. Okay, so for the session objective for Module 3, so we hope that by the end of the session, you will be able to explain the different items in PRIME-HRM Level 2 L&D Planning Pillar and assess your own L&D system against requirements of Level 2 L&D Planning Pillar and identify areas, no, where customization can be applied in the L&D Planning Pillar. Okay. So we have actually the pillar elements. First is governance, and then we have planning and monitoring and evaluation, no, considering the lengthy topic. So for this second pillar, we have the two modules. We have Module 3 and Module 4, no? And then we have the execution. Okay. So the requirement under Maturity Level 2 of PRIME-HRM for L&D planning, under the system lens, the requirement or the indicator is that the agency has an annual learning and development plan based on a needs assessment of employees regardless of gender, civil status, age, disability, ethnicity, etc. So the requirement here is an annual learning and development plan that is based on learning and needs assessment. So we will tackle this afternoon. Next is the practice. No, for the practice, the indicator is the PDC or the Personnel Development Committee or the Human Resource Development Committee now. And managers or supervisors can describe or explain their plan to meet the learning and development needs of their employees. In other words, they know how to make the L&D plan. No? Okay. So for L&D planning, the hierarchy of planning processes that drive the L&D function of the agency. So it establishes the link between learning and development programs and activities and the agency's goals and direction. So basically, L&D is primarily based on the objectives, no, the mission and vision of the agency and the strategic priorities of the agency. Okay. So there's a saying by Eleanor Roosevelt that it takes as much energy to wish as it does to plan. So why not plan, no, instead of just wishing? An hour of planning can save you 10 hours of doing. So if we just plan, we can save a lot of time. Okay, so for level 1, the requirement is a list of external training programs. So as I have mentioned earlier, for level 2, the requirement is an annual needs-based learning and development plan. So this is annual, so every year, agencies that are accredited under PRIME-HRM must have a learning and development plan every year. Okay, let us have a poll question. As to your experience regarding L&D planning, okay, so the first poll question is, so have you prepared a learning and development plan? So the answer is just a yes or no. So I have already launched the poll. Please answer the poll question. So I'm seeing actually 8 people have experienced conducting a learning and development needs assessment, whereas a lot of people also, 43%, have not experienced this. Okay, so let's proceed with the L&D plan. So we hope that you can learn something from our virtual assistants that will enable you to conduct a learning needs assessment and to prepare a learning and development plan based on the L&D needs assessment. Okay, so the L&D plan is a living document that sets out how L&D interventions will support achievement of organizational strategic goals and directions. So as I have mentioned earlier, it is really based on your mission, vision of the agency, the goals, and the direction of the agency. It aligns workforce competencies with this strategic priority. So it ensures the alignment, that the workforce can actually or are actually competent enough to achieve the strategic goals for the agency. So it bridges performance gaps by addressing employees' L&D needs. Okay, so what are the levels of L&D planning? So we have first strategic learning and development plan, and then the annual L&D plan and the L&D implementation plan. So for the strategic L&D plan, this is anchored on the organization's long-term goals and priorities. So what are the long-term goals of your agency? I think it is also best to ask whether the long-term goals of your agency are also aligned with the long-term goals of the country. I think it's necessary that there should be alignment with the goals of the country. Now, maps out how L&D will support achievement of strategic results or outcomes. Now, for annual L&D plan, this already identifies the specific L&D interventions for implementation within a year. So what are the L&D interventions? If we talk about L&D interventions, sometimes we just think about trainings. But of course, there are other L&D interventions which we will discuss later. It specifies outputs, learning objectives, learners, schedule, and resources. So these are the contents of the learning and development plan. Now, for the implementation plan, it details plans for the execution of specific L&D interventions, and identifies activities, timelines, responsibilities, outputs, and budgets. Okay, so let me share with you this video. Please let me know if you don't hear anything, if there is no audio.
Welcome to Rhodes Business School's free resources video. In this video, I'm going to give you a basic overview of how to develop and implement a training and development strategy.
Thank you.
Training and development is a necessary and vital part of any employment setting. If you don't have a training and development strategy for your organisation, the only person or group that will end up being hurt is your business. There is a true return on investment for training your people that can't be denied. Firstly, you have to consider what exactly your organisation's design and structure is and how that fits in your organisation's values. In determining these two things, you will be able to see the lines along which you should consider designing your training and development plan. You should also consider what branch of training you want to focus your energies on, as there are many different facets of training that you can put your personnel through, such as leadership and team building. Then, you have to look at the needs of your organisation and what training you can provide based on those needs. Conducting client-customer surveys to determine the best approach for training might work in some cases, as the client or customer may be able to see more clearly what your organisation is struggling with. But a survey within your organisation may also be in order. Your personnel will, after all, have a better sense of what needs to be refined in terms of your service delivery, particularly because they are the ones on the front line, engaging both your internal and external clients and customers. You have to ensure the training and development strategy you are considering for your organisation is very focused and oriented on what the company can offer in the future. Your training must absolutely be future focused. Without such a view towards the future, your training and therefore your organisation will suffer and potentially struggle for survival. You must also ensure you promote your training, otherwise the people to gain benefit from the training being offered will not know about it and therefore not attend. In addition, your internal and external clients and customers will be glad to see that your organisation is investing in training, as it speaks of a business that is very forward-thinking and interested in ensuring their employees are well trained. You also need to ensure that you have costed the training accurately for reasons that are fairly obvious. If you have not calculated the cost of providing training for your employees in a way that makes sense, your budget will pay the price in the end. You want to ensure you have allotted enough training dollars so that your employees can take advantage of the training process. In determining cost, you need to consider such things as what training style you will be providing your employees. Will this be a training situation where they will be sent to a remote location, that is, away from your business site? Will they be offered online training, distance learning? Will you adopt a train-the-trainer situation where one or two employees will be sent for training and then return to offer training to others in the organisation? Regardless of the training method you choose, you have to appropriately calculate just how much the training will cost. Finally, you need to establish the roles and responsibilities of all parties involved in the training. Without a clear definition of who will be playing what role as far as your training is concerned, you will have managers, employees and even trainers confused as to exactly how far their role extends and how the other members in the organisation will connect with the training. You need to establish these roles and responsibilities so that each party involved in the training, from the trainee right up to the manager, knows exactly what to do, when to do it, and who to report to when required. The development and implementation of a training and development strategy can be daunting for many organisations, but it doesn't have to be. With careful planning and some forethought, and a delineation of everyone's roles and responsibilities in the process, your organisation can benefit from an outstanding training plan that has been carefully implemented. For more information, go to www.
So what are the considerations that we need for an L&D intervention that should be included in the L&D plan? What were mentioned? So in the video, can you please type your answer in the chat box? Okay, so it must be future focused. That was mentioned, yes. Anything else? Any other answer? Cost-oriented from DepEd, future focus as well. Yes. That you must consider the budget. So that was mentioned as well. What else? So of course, you must realize the needs of your organization. So anything else? Okay, so we will learn more as a succeeding slides. From the trainee to the manager must know what to do. Sorry. Okay, so we have this activity wherein you are asked to wear the hat of, okay, top management, line manager, staff employee, and then we have L&D officer, and then sorry, admin or budget. So let me group yourself or yourselves into 5 so that we can have this. So for group 1, you will take the hat of the top management. For group 2, line managers. For group 3, staff or employee. And for group 4, L&D officer. And then for group 5, we have admin or budget. Okay. So, and then discuss what elements do you want to see in your learning and development plan. So let's have a breakout room for this. So just 5 minutes of discussion. So the moment you get into the room, please discuss outright. You will have a short time to discuss, no? So please take a picture of this so that you will have an idea as to what you will do in the breakout rooms. So top management for group 1, line managers for group 2, staff or employee for group 3, L&D officer or trainers for group 4, and then admin budget finance officers for group 5. So you will wear the hat, meaning think like them, think like the top management, think like the line managers, and then answer the question, what elements do you want to see in your L&D plan? So we will just have 5 minutes. Okay, so the participants are back in plenary already. So I think we can have first let's hear from the staff or the employees or group 3. So from group 3, we have from BIR, Jo Marie Panyo, and then Said Badron, DepEd El Salvador City, Lim Felony, and from PGO HRM. So anybody who wants to share their answers?
Good
So
morning. Good afternoon,
yes,
ma'am.
good afternoon. Yes, ma'am. Please take it away.
Yes, ma'am. As a staff employee, what we want to see in our L&D plan is, of course, the relevancy of the trainings with yung relevancy po ng training sa amin, kung applicable ba sa career path namin. And then, of course, yung goal ng L&D para yung as a staff employee, makita ko kung yung goal ko is aligned with the goal of the L&D also. I think that's it. Thank you.
Sorry, you want to see the relevance of the training to the employee. So that's from group 3. And now may we hear from, let's hear first from the budget, no? Or finance officers. We have group 5 for the budget or finance officers. Group 5 composed from LG Cagayan de Oro, Cheryl Juarez rather, FO-Misamis Oriental, and then we have Voltaire Bernal from MSU Naawan. So anybody who wants to share? Dali naman siguro ni, di ba, ang sa admin or budget or finance officers. So what elements do you want to see in the L&D plan? If you're the budget officer and you're the one in charge of approving the budget, what do you think should be in the L&D plan? Anybody? Murag nawala man si Voltaire. So Miss Cheryl Juarez or from FO-Misamis Oriental?
Hello, ma'am. Good afternoon.
Okay, good afternoon. You may start, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. The budget aside, the program cost, we have to look at it, the operational, the design, and its delivery. So as to operational, I think we have to consider the travel cost. So if we're going to look at it, and also the facilities that will be used during the training, if it's really applicable to the type of training that the employees are going to undergo, and also if the venue is suitable for the kind of training. I think that those are some that we have to consider as budget
Okay.
officer for L&D planning.
Thank you very much, Group 5. So you wanted to consider the design and then of course, the budget and the suitability of the facilities as well as the venue. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So now may we hear from the L&D officers or trainer? No, later. Let us have this last, no? So let us hear first from the line managers from Group 2. Those who were in room 2 were from BIR, Gledonio Tiope, Ms. Janet Zerna, Ken Labial, and then Syra C. Bacoto. Anybody from Group 2? Line
Hi,
managers.
hi, Atty. I was actually grouped with group four, the fourth group, the LND officer and trainer, because I opened two units. Yeah, I
Okay.
went out the second breakout room and transferred to the fourth.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, okay. So I noticed, yeah, no, you were in two rooms. So, anybody from room 2? Ken Labial, Janet, Zerna, if you are there, and then Gledonio Tiope.
Um, I, I think attorney for the line manager should ensure that the training is fully customized and well developed, and to ensure the quality and efficiency of the training.
So you want the training to be customized and well developed for the efficiency of the training. So that's the answer of the line managers. No, naan siya sa chat box. So fully customized and develop a training program, ensure the quality and efficiency of the training. Okay, so now may we hear from the top management as to the contents, no, or the elements of the L&D plan. From Group 1, we have Renisa Ramos, Calderon Sonia. We have another one still from BIR, and then from LGU Balingasag, Ms. Rosana Ipan. So anybody from room 1?
Hello po, good afternoon, attorney.
Yes, good afternoon, ma'am. Sige, ma'am, please continue.
So, as a top manager, top management po, we would like to see the elements na yung budget. Kasi, diba, if the budget is kanang, ano ba siya? Kanang, pwede ba siya sa budget within the whole office? And then, the training objectives para ano natin kung if the training is ano ba siya, may ano ba siya bitaw sa align ba siya sa mission, vision, and goals sa office. And then the training outcomes, if this training is efficient and effective para sa mga employees. And then the actions, if ang actions ba or implementations is doable ba or achievable. So that's all po for being a top management.
Okay, so thank you very much, Group 1. No? There were a lot of elements mentioned by the top management. And of course, part of that is the budget kit taga BIR. So very specific with the budget siguro, ma'am. And of course, they also mentioned about alignment, no, of the objectives. And of course, there were other items siguro nga that were mentioned. Now, may we proceed with Group 4, the L&D officers or trainers. So they So okay, thank you very much. No, so from the different lenses that from the different hats that you actually wore, no, you were able to give different answers. So a virtual applause, please, for everybody. Virtual applause for everybody. Thank you very much. So now let us discuss, no, the elements of the L&D plan. Whether those elements that you mentioned are actually what should be in the learning and development plan. Now, these are the elements of the annual L&D plan. First, you must have the background or the rationale why you want to have such a plan, and later we will discuss each, no, of this. Second, you must have an L&D plan objective. So this was actually mentioned by Dr. Marikit. And next, number 3, you must have the L&D priorities. So partly this was discussed by Ms. Syra, no, as to what will be your L&D priorities. Is it exemplifying integrity ba you want to develop as a competency, or is it leadership skills or competencies? Now, number 4, you have the L&D calendar and resource requirements as to the schedule of your learning and development interventions and the resources needed. Now, number 5, you will have here the monitoring and evaluation framework. Okay. Now, the annual L&D plan, these are the key steps on what you should do. First is you must assess the needs, no, of the organization as to what are the needs of the organization. Do you need leaders, more leaders? Do you need to develop leaders, or do you have vacancies, no, in critical positions like department head positions for local government units or division chief positions in SUCs and national government agencies? And then you must also assess the needs of the groups, no, the different divisions and departments, as well as the individuals. So you have to analyze as to whether the individual employees have competency gaps and what are these competency gaps. Now, prioritizing L&D needs, so this will depend on the strategic priorities of the agency, the mission and vision of the agency, as well as the needs, no, of the individuals. Now, identifying L&D interventions as to what L&D interventions should you actually give to the individual employees. Is it a training? Are we limited to training? So later we will learn about this. And then developing your monitoring and evaluation plan and preparing the implementation plan. Okay. Now for the background and rationale, first, you must know the vision, the mission, no, and the goals of the agency. Sometimes this is easier said than done, but so far in my experience in conducting L&D interventions in various government agencies, there are really those employees who have difficulty in remembering the vision and the mission, no, of their agencies. So can we have, if we have a sample now, if I'll ask one of you to recite, okay ra kaya? Anyways, dili na lang, no? So it also depends on the goals, no, the strategic priorities of the agency. You have there the priority reform agenda or thrust, especially, you know, for LGUs na tag 3 years lang ang term of our local chief executive, so they have their priorities. And of course, for all agencies, we have our strategic priorities. So L&D plan should be based on this for us to be able to attain actually, you know, the different mission, the different goals that we have in the short term. So because L&D plan is annual for level 2, which is for the short term. So overview of L&D programs and status, and then the planning process and the different strategies that you have to employ. Now for another element is the L&D plan objective. So what is the objective of your learning and development plan? What are the objectives of the different interventions? No, is it to develop the different competencies? Specifically, what are these competencies that you want to develop in your employees? Okay. So priority needs, you have annual L&D priorities. So priority learning and development needs, probably, for the Civil Service Commission. For example, we have 8 organizational competencies, and we cannot possibly give or develop all employees, if we don't conduct a learning needs assessment. So we have to check annually as to what are the competency gaps of the employee. So are there competency gaps for all the organizational competencies? So like, are there competency gaps with respect to writing effectively, speaking effectively, so championing and applying innovation? So those are some of the competencies in the Civil Service Commission. So we have to prioritize, which one is a priority and should be focused on. Now, proposed interventions, what are these proposed interventions? And there must be an implementation plan, as to when this will be implemented, who are the responsible persons to implement this. So L&D calendar and resource requirements, there must be a schedule and a budget. So the budget is very important. In fact, I think for most of you, especially for those working in local government units, you cannot conduct an L&D intervention without actually having a budget. You actually request for the budget. So for everybody, actually. So it's just a matter of placing this in a plan, rather than just a actually, you also have the budget in the training design. So aside from the training design, the annual plan, the training design is focused on one training, whereas the L&D plan is focused on the different L&D interventions for the entire year. Okay, for the monitoring and evaluation system, you must have an M&E framework, and an M&E plan. Okay, so learning needs analysis process. So this was mentioned by some earlier, as to the need for the learning needs analysis. So first is you must analyze the institutional needs, the requirements of your agency. So what is the mandate of your agency? That should be the focus first. And next, you have the mission and the vision of your agency and the strategic priorities. You can also have a needs assessment based on the performance needs of the employee. So what are the performance gaps? This can be seen from the IPCR actually. You have there a portion at the bottom of the IPCR regarding development interventions. So because of the performance gaps. And next, you have learning needs of the employees based on their competencies, based on the gaps of their competencies. And then environmental needs. What are the needs of the present situation, for instance, that we are in this pandemic? So these needs will be considered. First is you must have the collection of data, and then of course the analysis of data. How do you collect the data? Then of course you need to have a learning needs assessment tool for you to be able to collect the data. After that, you analyze the data, and then for learning needs, you prioritize against organization goals, and of course, you come up with a learning and development plan. And for non-learning needs, organization improvement is one of the suggestions. Okay, let's have another video on the learning needs assessment.